to the Wolfkeeper, a show that's just about everything that you could maybe think about, everything that you can feel that's inside of your heart. What I need for you to do right now is spend the next hour relaxing. Just stop your day before you go into 12 o'clock. And I just want y'all to close your minds, open your hearts, and relax and go on this journey with me. It's a beautiful place that you're about to go, because I want to make you feel, I want to just open you up and think about some things you never really thought about. Right now, the Wolfkeeper. Come on. Good morning, y'all. Come on. It's the Wolfkeeper show. Get ready. Come on, let's go. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. It's the Wolfkeeper show. Your boy, Torriano Sanzoni. Yeah. Chanelli Nell. My boy Tyrone Scott somewhere rocking the Doogie Dogs. Denzel's in his house. Shacky Shack. And for all the people out there that love us, we love you back. Thank you all. Get ready for an amazing show with the Wolfkeeper. Get ready. Here we go.
Yo, for all those people out there that love us, we love you back. And even if you don't love us, we love you back even harder and harder. What we need now is love, L-O-V-E. And I got Chanelli Nails up in here. How you feeling, Chanelli Nails?
How are you?
Love is all we do.
You know that song?
Is that Heavy D in the voice?
Mary J? No.
Is that Heavy D?
It's Mary J. I think it's Mary J in my days. It could have been Heavy D.
You made me think about, now that we got love, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
Now that... You remember that song? You're too young for that.
Yes.
You're like,
I'm not. I remember it.
You're like in 4th grade when it came out.
Come on.
We got Denise in your house. Denise Barreto. Buenos días, mi amor. ¿Qué pasó?
Buenos días. ¿Cómo estás? Estoy bien.
Estoy bien, todo bien. Pero mucho me gusta tu nombre. Pero now when I see your last name, just affectionately, I want to say Barreto.
Well, you go ahead. I just won't answer. No big deal. Hey, I keep telling you are what you answer, sir. Exactly. And our names and our words have power. So absolutely.
Our words do have power.
No big deal.
Our words do have power. How you feeling?
I am feeling well today. Glad to be here.
Thank you
Something to look forward to.
Thank you for joining our Wolfkeeper show. We have a whole bunch jammed into next hour, and you are such a phenomenal person because first and foremost, you're a mama with grown folks, almost grown, damn near grown, right? Because you have a sophomore, is it a freshman or sophomore in college?
She's in her second year of post-secondary. Yeah, she's in fashion school, so they don't really have sophomore, but second year post-secondary.
So you got out of high school, then you have a high school.
That's right,
launched, and then Evan is your son. He what year is he?
15. Yeah, he's a sophomore in high school. So we do have a sophomore among us.
You have a sophomore. So aside from being super mama, then you have your production company. You're out there making movies, documentaries, saving the world, engaging community action, injustices, just so much that you are doing. You're a super phenomenal, inspirational person. Just in general, I mean, you're one of the toughest people I know because you don't give up, you don't give in, and you find time to make things happen. When you easily, just shout out to every single mama that's out there with that, because the education right now, I just can't imagine. I'm so happy that my son is in college and he don't call me. I can't imagine. I just can't imagine having to help out with any kind of homework at all. I don't even want to see it. Just even hear my friends talk about.
Like the way that they're doing it these days is totally different. I'm like, I don't understand this.
I don't want to be part of any educational system with kids right now. I'm just keeping it real. So, because you have to get off.
I'm a high schooler.
Yeah.
Because I don't help that much, right? It's more about guiding. And it's funny that you started with my mama identity. That's the thing I least identify with, who I am. Being a mom is the thing I least identify with. So it's funny that you started with that, because I was like, whoa, I guess I am a mom. Usually at this time of day, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm somebody else. So thank you for reminding me too.
Well, and the thing that why I even started with that, because someone said, I'm about to totally change the mood right now. Someone said, blah, 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 I'm sure is having a bad day today. And I said, no, you know who's having a bad day today is Breonna Taylor's mom. That's who's having a bad day. I was like, dude, your day doesn't even, whatever. This just happened 2 hours ago. Because I'm like, I can't even imagine being her mama. You know what I mean? So I'm like, mamas, specifically black mamas, in charge of young black human beings. You mean it's some stressful and it has been historically for thousands of years. But right now, you mean I don't, and that's why black mamas have been on my mind, because all these black women that have to get up, and the ones that have had the courage to say, don't burn down the city on my child's behalf. And I don't think people really get that they could easily be saying just the opposite. Burn this down.
If it was my kid, I would be. I'd be like, these systems aren't working. So that's why they better not shoot my kid. Because when you shoot my kid, I'm going to be the anarchist mom. Like, I am going to be the mom burning down, probably with the match. I'll be like,
You'll be out there.
So yeah, I do compartmentalize very much.
So you see how I started with mom. That's why I started with mamas. That's why I started with the mamas. So I know you do so much more than just being an awesome super mom. But tell us about yourself and your amazing resume.
Oh, well, I appreciate you reminding me of that. Yeah, it's funny, before my divorce, I think I did start myself as like a wife, a mom, entrepreneur, public servant, and I was like in that order. And that order has always stayed the same. I'm still a mom first. You're absolutely right. But before I was a mom, I was an entrepreneur. I was a marketer. And so I feel like those parts of my identity have, they've been with me before I ever birthed anybody. And one of the things that's been with me before I ever birthed anybody was being a storyteller and being being a curator of content. And so that's, you absolutely hit it. Sarah Productions, we launched at the Sundance Film Festival in 2019.
That's huge.
And we have our first show on PBS right now, Fly Brother. You can find out about it at flybrother.net. But we're at PBS stations nationwide right now.
And I don't like to assume anything, but for people that might not know, explain the significance of Sundance. Because some people might not. Yeah. Chanel, you know about Sundance?
Okay, so yeah.
Chanel, you know.
Yes.
You know about Sundance Fest?
Sundance Dress. No, film festival.
See, exactly. We gotta.
Yes.
I said.
So Sundance Film Festival was started the year after I was born, in 72, by Robert Redford. And his original dream for it was he wanted a place for independent filmmakers, because he saw, almost 50 years ago, that the big studios didn't pay attention to small filmmakers and smaller storytellers. So he started the festival with the thought of making it a marketplace for independent filmmakers. And what it is now is so much more. And it's actually the kickoff of every year of content. People all kind of bear down on Park City, Utah, and that town, I think, when it's not Sundance, it only has something like 40,000 people. But then when Sundance comes, it's like it comes alive for those 2 weeks. Well, you're right. It is a very big deal to launch a company at Sundance. And it was kind of an accidental thing because that's how my life works. But we were asked to be on a panel about using media for social change. And I just converted that into an opportunity to tell the world that, I want to be on this panel, but here's why you should care. And we launched our company. And we exist to tell stories that don't get told. And we actually say where new narratives begin and the end of the system, right?
I love that you just said that. We exist to tell stories that don't get told. And I want to go back to what you just said earlier. I just took some notes. And you said, before I birthed humans. And because so many single moms that are out. You and I have talked about this a lot, because North Lawndale, where I'm from, shout out to K-Town, 14th and Kaminsky, where I was born and raised. We have one of the largest populations in Chicago of single moms. And I see these single moms in the morning, when back in the normality, rushing to the bus stop, 2 kids, one in left hand, one in right hand, rushing to the bus stop, jumping on the bus stop, going to wherever they need to go, 5 o'clock, coming home, kid in left hand, kid in right hand, walking kind of exhausted, only to do it 4 more times before they get to Saturday. But you're I want this podcast to be a motivational for all women, but especially for Black women, because you've proven that you can go through a divorce, still raise your kids, and you got them into amazing schools, right? And still run your business. Because a lot of times I hear people just say the opposite. I'm going to wait until they're 22 and then I'm going to start my company. I have this whole business plan, but I have to wait until commencement date. As soon as they take that diploma, I'm starting my company. I hear that a lot. So that's why I feel it's fascinating with you, because what's been your motivation to, because you're not just doing, and it's not even like you're doing one side project. You have full out other companies, and you have a for real job. It's not even like you have other, side projects, and you have this part-time job, work in that Blockbuster. You mean video. You have a for real career job and a for real company, a for real company, and you got for real humans that, you know, can call upon you saying, hey, mom, we need like some real shit, like tuition.
Superwoman. She's got a Superwoman cape. I know that's why I have the Wonder Woman tattoo, right?
That's why she got the Wonder Woman tattoo. What's your motivation? What pushes you through?
You touched on it because I said birthed humans. Before I birthed humans, I birthed foundations. One of my first things that I'm super proud of, when I was 27 years old, a billionaire in Chicago gave me $100,000 and said, start a foundation.
Wow.
So I birthed the foundation that today is called the Chicago Fire Kids Foundation or something. We called it something different when I started it back in 2000, back in 97. So, but what my point is, the reason I specifically said birthed humans is because I'm a birther of things all the time, right? I birth projects. I birth a television show. I'm in the midst of birthing an HBCU documentary. And the reason I use that term is because there's something unique about birth. And I want women who haven't experienced human birth to articulate the things that they are growing and that they're nurturing and that they're creating. And we put so much value on birthing humans, but we don't put enough value on birthing ideas. Bringing ideas, nurturing them, and bringing them to maturity. And so that's why I use the language I use, because again, before I birthed humans, I was birthing movements and birthing companies. And I know that there are women out there who have ideas, who have things that they want to birth, and sometimes they're waiting for permission.
I want to dig into that deeper, because you just made me think of State Rep Representative Toy Hutchison at a lecture. She stood before a crowd and she said, "I'm the mother of the bill, you know, that we crafted," which I thought was like, wow. I just imagine like Game of Thrones and Daenerys coming with the dragon eggs, you know, that she came out of this fire saying, "I am the mother of dragons. Like, I literally gave birth to these 2 dragon eggs. Like, they are mine." Like, she birthed. You know, so I mean, that's a huge, powerful statement. And you're a huge, powerful person. Let me ask you this: how do you feel then, being a Black woman in those positions, doing Sundance, you know, which is like a lot of white folks, you know, that have submitted films? You know what I mean? That's dope to see some chocolate people up in there, you know, to be dealing with Cook County, the positions that you hold, which is people that have been there since like the first brick was laid in Chicago, right? Living in Evanston, which is, you know, you all have a different kind of racism over there altogether, right?
Totally.
And you have biracial children, right?
Yep.
So which are Latino and Black, which is like they can get it on both sides because they're Black and because they're brown. So you're dealing with like double. But like, how do you as a Black woman then navigate in a society that is white male dominated, especially when you get to the level that you're at?
Sure. Well, you know what I have always said? You're going to laugh at this, but I'm going to say it again. I just pretend I'm a mediocre white guy. Right? Let's look at the world and look at the way things go, right? I'm obviously outstanding and amazing, but in those moments when I doubt or I think, oh my God, do I belong here? Well, first of all, I belong in every room that I walk in, period. I not only belong, but I have the potential to own every room I walk in. But of course, there's messages that tell me differently, right? And even yesterday's verdict, those things kind of are always bombarding me that I'm not important. Let me give you my favorite example. Last week during Cook County's Racial Equity Week, Toriano and Chanel, you guys will love this. Last Tuesday, we put together this environmental sustainability panel. And at the last minute, the director of an environmental organization in Chicago, she bailed. So she sent her COO, which then made my whole panel Black. Chocolate as hell. Right? People were losing their minds. They're like, Why is that panel black? Are you racial profiling white people? And I mean, people went nuts. When black women are empowered and we have the opportunity to lead.
But if it was the other way around, we wouldn't even heard all of that noise, right?
Exactly. Well, not only that, you could go like 45 years and see panels of environmental studies and never see a black person. So the one time that the whole panel was black, people were losing their shit.
Shame on you, Denise, for trying to make it all black. Coming in our Cook County trying to make it all black.
That's right?
Right, but the point is, what I'm saying to you goes back to the original, the question was, how do you navigate that? I navigate it as though every room I'm in, I can own. Every place I go, I belong. And you know, I hear people talk about imposter syndrome. I don't suffer from that because I'm not an imposter. Like, every place I go, I should be there.
I have a question for you. And I know you have specific things you want to talk about, but I've just went through my mind. I love to get your input. So, Vice President candidate Ms. Harris, right? Candidate Harris, right? Vice President candidate Harris. There was a vice president candidate. She's not the first female vice president candidate that's a woman. People seem to forget this. Good old Geraldine Ferraro.
Ferraro, that's right.
Was with
and Sarah Palin too.
And Sarah Palin. But even before Sarah Palin, let's go back in time, right?
84, Walter Mondale.
Right. And she was slammed. I mean, this is a white woman that was slammed. I mean, they went in on her hair, they went on her clothes, they attacked her husband. Anything that could be attacked about a woman was attacked, right? Sarah Palin, boom, they ripped her apart. I mean, like, she said one thing wrong, they went to work on it. You know what I mean? It was like, then it was like, oh, she's like a slutty secretary because of her glasses. And then it was all this Sarah Palin porn popping up. You know what I mean? Just like all this stuff. If you are the advisor to Vice President candidate Harris, and we're about to, the first debate is next Tuesday, Trump versus Biden, right? And then the trolling's about to start, the nasty mudsling's about to start, the attacks are about to start. How do you prep your marketing team for all? Because if they attacked two white women, I think we'd be remiss to say they're not going to attack the first black, right?
And she's got the strike of being black and Indian as well. Like, so she's not 100% African American too. She's also the child of immigrants, right? So how I would prepare, that's such a great question. Thanks for asking me. If I were her, I would just stick to my record and I would stick to my qualifications. And I would shut down questions, cause she didn't have kids. That's a person, there's a person, she didn't have kids, but she absolutely was the mother of a lot of legislation. She was, and here's the other thing in her case, I would own those things that she's not proud of, too, right? Because when black people talk about Kamala, they talk about how she was putting us away. They talk about her record on pot and things like that. If I were her, I would own that. And I would own how I've evolved in my thinking and how I've evolved as a politician, as a woman. And if she sticks to what she's done since she's been in Senate, what you gonna say? Because she's been a stalwart in Senate. She's done very, very well for a freshman senator. That's what I would stick to. And I wouldn't ignore or downplay the other stuff that people talk about. I would own it. Yeah, I did do that. And I don't think enough politicians do that.
And so that's what you would coach her through. Like, look,
you gotta have thick skin getting into those positions because, I mean, who's not gonna say something? Somebody's always gonna have something to say.
Yeah, but they don't always like just classic case. And I have both of you two powerful women on the line right now. So women get attacked, period. You mean women of power get attacked. So Hillary Clinton, here she was being attacked because of things that her husband did. In the first debate, Trump had Bill Clinton's mistresses in the front row.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is that I'm saying to what Chanel said, that you got to have thick skin. And you said, Denise, that you would own it. Would you verbally admit to, like, yeah, you know what? I did lock people up. I did feel this way.
Yes.
You would advise her on that?
Yeah, I would. I don't think anything's wrong in moving yourself. And the fact that people try to make that a bad thing is what's wrong. As long as we live on this planet, we should be learning and moving forward and evolving the way we think. I mean, I don't know. I don't think everything I thought. I'm 48 years old. I think about 12 years ago, some of the things I said, I might have posted somewhere. I'm not happy or proud of them, but I'm absolutely happy and proud that I'm not that person anymore. And I'm happy and proud of how I've evolved. And so I don't understand why politicians, and I say this because I am a politician too. Working in Cook County, you can't not be, not to mention, I don't think we said it today, but all these young childbearing age women of color that are in office and running for office, I started that shit 11 years ago in practically rural Illinois. And what I'm saying to you is who I was when I ran for office 11 years ago and who I am today, two different people. And so if somebody brought up something that I said then in an official capacity that I know is wrong or I don't feel that way anymore, I'm totally cool with owning it. And I don't understand why my peers aren't like that.
Woo! And I love that you said, I started that shit.
Sass behind it.
I just heard I heard like a Jay-Z soundtrack come in, like, I started that. I birthed the game. Let me ask you this. So yesterday we had the amazing Lori Handlers on the show, and she talked about the sacred masculine energy. And she said regarding sacred masculine energy, when women are at a point where they have to work super hard or do certain things where they've not had a time for a relationship at all.
Superwoman cape on.
Right. And then they haven't had sex, they haven't had an intimate relationship in a while because they're focusing on career, family, especially single moms, that the sacred masculine energy can dissipate, and then they take on both the masculine and feminine and continue to move further and further away from that. I mean, where it's hard for them to then relate back to men. So do you agree with that?
Well, I can't disagree. That's her experience. That's not my experience. I never not have sex. What? Like, I don't care how focused I am. Like, Chanel, you just laugh. But I'm serious. Like, I don't care how focused I am. I don't care. I'm birthing a Cook County Racial Equity Week. I could be doing a lot of things, but having sex is really important, and it's a part of my energy and part of like my needs. Like the way that I need air, I need sex. And I won't let tons and tons of time. I will say the pandemic has made it harder from my normal game, but I came in late and I heard what she said yesterday, and I was thinking, wow, when a couple weeks goes by, then I get like, ooh. Well, and not to mention, there's also self-pleasure too in there. But absolutely don't let like tons and tons of time go by. Because I agree with her. I think if you don't relate, then and a lot of time goes by, I think it's very difficult to kind of come back. So I just make sure that's not my experience. That's all I can say to that.
So I mean that's great, and I love that's why it makes you so powerful, because you just openly just like boom, I get my sex on. There's personal. They're like, Evan better not be listening. Like, Mom, what do you like? What do you mean?
So
Like, what the? I don't want to hear my mom say that.
When I was reading a book, wait, Toriano, this is good. When I was reading the book Ethical Slut recently, I wanted to post about it, and my kids were like, dude, I'm like, but I won't post about it because I know all your friends follow me. Who wants to hear that their friend's mom is reading Ethical Slut?
Right. Or one of your kids' friends are watching my show right now, like, man, I heard your mom getting it. She said she get it every week. You gotta, hey, I'm like, damn, that's a cool ass mom. Damn. Like, so that's powerful that you're able to admit and say that, though, because that's basically what she was saying, that it's like air, it's like food. A person needs it. And then women that are working super duper hard, I think a lot of times women, it goes in that same category as like, once the kids graduate, I'm going to start my business, and then once they graduate, I'm going to have a boyfriend for the first time, and that person can come over. But until then, I'm going to be celibate until Evan graduates high school.
Okay, well, I can't even relate to that. Like, I don't even know how to respond, but what I would say is this. I respect other women's choices, right? So if there are women that choose that, I support that. More power to you, sister. I told my kids when we separated, one of my favorite moments of my kids' life is after their dad and I broke up. Emma is, let's see, she's 14 at the time, and Evan was 9. I sat them down, or he was 10, whatever. Sat them down, and I said, hey, your dad and I, it's not working out. Here's how we're going to do this. You know, my kids, they had a point plan. They were like, you can't date white guys. You can't have any more kids. Like, they had a response to me, right?
They came up with Denise rules and constitution. They're like, here, please sign this.
Yeah, and that was the best, y'all, is I wouldn't agree that I wasn't having any more kids. And shit, people were bursting into tears, but I don't want any more kids. I mean, the factory is closed. I've laid off all the... But the point I say to my kids is, that's not your choice.
That is hilarious.
I don't want to have kids, but my kids ain't going to tell me I can't have kids. So I
love that.
I'm very proud of the
that is so awesome.
Kids and the kind of relationship that we have, that we can even talk about, you know?
So, hey, you know, it's funny you said that. You just made me think of my friend was telling me that her daughter, who was 22, was talking to her about who she should date. It is interesting that, because these kids they're not kids at that point, but that the fact that they try to regulate adults.
Right.
So, I want to get into like some seriousness, because you are doing a lot as far as racial justice, and you said something powerful before we got on, which I feel a little jaded. Chanel knows that I don't want to say like jade is not even the right word. I'm just a realist. You mean, I was saying martial law back in March. If I was in charge, instead of Auntie Lori, you know, Big Papa Toriano would have all y'all on lock. You all wouldn't have been outside at all. Like, you would need it out of like one person you can designate to leave your house until December, and like download the application. I'll approve it, right? But other than that, I don't want to see nobody out. $1,000 fine, and I'm locking you up, not the county. I would have had a makeshift jail like in the middle of Kankakee somewhere. So,
but seriously, like it didn't even feel like quarantine though. Like people were.
Oh, you all was partying. Chanel.
Still existed.
Chanel. I talked to Chanel about COVID last week, and she was like, she thought it was like a little small animal. I was like, no, I was like, COVID, girl. Like, but I'm saying when you said about the injustice, the verdict with Breonna Taylor. I mean, like me, I'm like, I'm surprised that it even went to trial, that there was even anything happening at all, because to convict a white
And they
male.
convened a grand jury. Like, oh, y'all don't convict me.
Right. Like I'm shocked just in general that there was even a court case, period. Like, I mean, Laquan McDonald took almost 6 years for even a court case. 6 years. The kid was killed back in 2014. They just went to court. So, I mean, when you said, like, you just can't sit with any kind of injustice at all, like, you won't get used to this, right? What does that mean? And then how do you not, I mean, my theory is, like, hey, leave the country, get out. I mean, like, it is what
the black sit, right?
Right.
She's like, hey, we're black sitting this bitch. Here's my thing. What I said, y'all, before we started was I can't be okay and sit with injustice. And what I mean by that is I'm affected deeply every time. So let's talk about what happened yesterday. It was a grand jury process to investigate whether or not to even have charges. So let's start with that. So they didn't have a trial, but you're right, Toriano. We couldn't even get a grand jury on Laquan McDonald for years.
6.
For years. Yeah. And then after the grand jury, they decided to charge Van Dyke, and then he had a trial, and then he was convicted. So the fact what you're saying is true. We've had progress. Because the fact that Brianna was killed in March, and there was a grand jury inquiry right away. This year.
As sad as that is. But what do you mean when you said, I mean, that really, it kind of hurt my heart when you were like, I'm not gonna get used to this, but it's like, how can you not? This is the reality of being black in America.
Response to you. Because you said, we asked each other how we were doing.
Right.
And you said you were great. I'm not great. I am disgruntled. My stomach is upset. I haven't been able to eat one day because I am absolutely, and I don't ever want to lose that. And you can say to me, well, Denise, that's ridiculous. You know, this happens all the time and blah, 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 blah.
But did you not think that was, did you think it was going to be any different? Did you think it was going to be different?
I know that isn't either here nor there. Whether I didn't think it was going to be different. So yes, I will answer that directly. No, I didn't expect there to be, charges or whatever. I didn't, because I had read the case and I saw where it was going. But that doesn't mean when it comes out it hurts less because I'm expecting it. Okay, and I think part of that's because I'm not an abused wife. The first time my husband hits me, I'm walking out, right? So I say that how it relates to America. America has abused me my entire life, but I will never, ever be used to it or stay on the ground and just kind of be like, okay, that's the way it is. I love that my body feels the way it feels because that makes me know that I actually still care. And it equips me to walk into this county building and look people in the eye and tell them to do their job and to do it with the racial equity lens and stop perpetuating the systems that don't give us justice.
Let me ask you this. So do you think there needs to be some sign, like some trait of like, more than likely it's going to go this way, so more than likely we're going to have to prepare it this way? You mean, because what I get why they don't do it, because they don't want to cause panic, right? And let's move on to something else I know you don't like talking about. And I'm going to say this, and you're in charge. I'm putting you in charge. You're now the governor of Illinois, right? In with your new governor powers, you also control all the mayors of Illinois directly, right? You're the supercharged governor. We have bestowed upon you the supercharged status, right? So now I'm saying, and this is me as your chief advisor. I said, I looked into my crystal ball, right? And on November 4th, 2020, Donald Trump has won, right? And we know this right now.
I know what you're about to say.
We know this 100% right now. He's going to win. What do you want to do as far as preparing the city for potential chaos and mayhem on December 4th?
The next day, yeah. That's a tall order, man. You know what? So here's my one thing. I don't think I would do much of anything. Because I told you at the start of this, I'm okay with burning it all down. So what you said was, hey, you're the governor, you're in charge. Here's the thing. I don't want people to be hurt, but the bottom line is people are being hurt now. So if I'm the governor, I think what I would want to do is encourage people to do whatever they need to do to get their healing so that we can move on. And that sounds really kind of shitty and a cop-out. But I don't want to tell people how to eliminate these limits. Yeah, I don't want to tell people how to react. Like, I think, so for me, that's really arrogant. It's arrogant when people say, oh, violence is not the answer. Well, what is the answer to people who live in Inglewood who we've completely divested and they don't have fresh food and they don't have any opportunities and we've cut the transportation options to them? I don't have a right to tell somebody from North Lawndale not to be angry. Right? I guess the one thing I would do as governor is I would institute some mental health support.
Right.
Because y'all have every right to fucking burn this down. And then when you're ready, let's talk about it. And let's heal you and let's figure out some policy to make it better. I mean, that's probably what I would do.
And you know what? I truly commend you. And I will attest to this, being the birther. I gave birth to 2 humans. I'm the first male in the history of the world carry 2 children that are now walking around somewhere in Seattle and Minnesota. But I will say for sure, seeing you in action, you're great with young people. You mean, like, that's why I believe you when you say this, that you would just let it be, because I think there's a part of people like you that can say that relates to young people. You mean, because I'm not good with young people like that. I will admit to that. That's an art in itself when you're hanging out with teenagers. You mean, especially when you're old, especially when you're our age. That's an art.
Yes.
Being able to kick it with, you know, I can do like 25 and up, but like that.
I don't think so. I've seen you with kids before.
Well,
I was just going to say, I've seen young people too.
Exactly.
nah.
Well, here's what it is. He feels like he's not affected with them, but I've seen them respond to him.
I'm not. You're much better than me. You're 100%. Because like what you just said, I don't. I don't know if I would let people just be in charge. Like I'm too Leo. I want to be in control of everything. Like, let me throw another scenario at you. I need you to really use your governor's superpower. So you're governor, you're in charge of all the mayors. Forget November 4th.
Okay.
First time in 25 years that Halloween falls on a Saturday and it's a full moon, right? And we know that voter suppression is real. Historically, something interesting happens, like the streets are flooded with drugs. There's some kind of stimulus check that's going to anything to keep people from going to vote on Monday. And it's Halloween. And it's a full moon.
Scorpio season.
And it's Scorpio season. And it's the last Saturday before the election, right? There's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on that Saturday, right? Do you, let's see what happens. Just let it be. If it gets fucked up, it gets fucked up, but I'm not going to stress myself about something I don't know what's going to happen. B, go ahead and initiate martial law now. Look, no one can be outside from Friday, right, 5 p.m. until Wednesday, the day after the election, right? Or C, right, just send everyone to Cook County Jail for the weekend. Like, no one can be out at all. Actually, low key, good old Daley went on the Democratic convention. I don't know if you were here.
Yeah, 68. Yep, I read about that.
No, I'm not even talking about the 68 one. I'm talking about the one that was in 90, like when Clinton and those guys came to town.
Oh, 96. Yeah,
I didn't know it was possible for the entire city to be clean. One. Two, I I didn't see any thugs for like a week. I don't know what they did with them. Pooh Bear and Ray Ray had disappeared from the place. Like, North Lawndale was quiet for like, I don't know what they did, but they literally, like, what kind of memo they put out, but it was literally a ghost town. It was like Daly said, I don't want to see none. They better not be out. If anything go wrong when my people are in town, it was like, you know what I mean? When they're like, hey, be on best behavior, or you know what's up when they leave. So we know it's possible. So that's C, the disappearing act. So let me recap for you.
I got it.
You got it? You know your options?
You said A was, letting it go.
A, just like the song, let it be, right? B was drop the hammer, draconian martial law lockdown.
And C
was the next level up.
We did in 86.
Was AKA, we're just going to call it Operation Democratic Convention, where there's literally, I don't know what they did with the Negroes, but they were definitely, and anyone that does, they know that whoever was a politician during that time, they know I'm not lying because it was a real.
Oh, I know you're not lying because I worked that for MTV News. I was living in Atlanta at the time, but I came home to work that, and I agree with you. Clean as hell, every street, and you're right, we saw nobody, no movement. So I'm not a gangster. So I would not go C. I'm going to tell you that.
C's not an option.
I wouldn't go C.
Right.
C's not an option. So it's between A and B for me. And I'm still going to stick with my A. Because
really?
I'm a firm believer. Yeah, let me tell you why. It's for the same reason I still love God, right? Despite everything. Because God allows us free will. At any moment, God can just clamp down on us and make us do what the fuck He wants us to do. But He doesn't.
So I'm not okay with that. I'm really not. I do not like that option at all as my governor. Because it's like I feel like that almost even gave me a headache because it's like I'm tired of just like this. I mean, it's kind of like back in March. I'm like, dude, this shit's gonna go south. It's gonna be bad. It's not. There's nothing good about trying to control Americans with COVID. I mean, I could feel that. And then George Floyd happened, and I remember it reminds me, metaphorically, of a sandstorm, right? And sandstorms are so beautiful from a distance. But the thing is, you don't realize that all suddenly it's not as far as you think that it is. And before you know it, you're in. And then once you're in it, ain't nothing you can do except let it pass. But the interesting thing about it passing, you don't know how far back it was. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
So I feel like we're in a sandstorm right now. Like we're looking down in Louisiana, in Louisville. We're like, damn, that's fucked up that they shot some cops last night. I mean, good thing it's in Kentucky and not here. You know what I mean? Damn, that's messed up that some kid shot a kid.
Rochester, New York is still on fire, Toriano.
Kenosha's on fire. I mean, how the fuck did Kenosha, Wisconsin? Like, I think it's kind of like, like, yes, you are pregnant, Denise. You're like, how did this happen? I don't know how this could happen. Like, it's real. It's happening. It's kind of like, if it's going bad in Kenosha, Wisconsin, we're talking about Kenosha. We're not talking about a major city. That's like, that has to be like, yes, he's cheating on you. It's like, are you sure? Like, girl, like, there's used condoms all over your house.
I hear what you're saying. I hear everything you're saying.
Like, how can you even go with like, let's find out, let it be? Because when you say that, I just think that, no one can say, damn, how did this get there if on Saturday?
You're already pregnant, dude. You're already pregnant. We're already in the storm. What is one night? What is me clamping down for 4 nights? How is that going to make a significant difference? What's going to stop them after that 4 nights of burning it down anyway? Like the first night that they can come back. Like, so, I mean, I hear you and I totally respect where you're coming from, but I I just don't believe in trying to control other humans. Sorry.
Because some people aren't just gonna comply.
Well, exactly. Well, that, or they're just gonna hold their artillery for 4 days, and then
Let me ask you this other tough question. Can you foresee us being at a point where complete draconian martial law would have to be called?
Yes, I can, and I can see it because we're going to have a contested election. We may or may not have a Supreme Court that can settle it. What you're talking about is a very real possibility within the next 90 days.
Not even 90.
Right, less than that, because I think the election is like 40 days, 38 or whatever.
Right.
So, all I'm saying, Toriano, is that you can't, without a crystal ball, you can't predict, and you can plan, but even what we plan may or may not be helpful. So my point is, I would let it be, and then when it gets to that moment, maybe I would take your option B, right? Maybe when shit's burning, we would come down, but I don't think that's the answer to start.
What do you, just going international though for a second here? Some of the countries that, such as the Philippines, where there's age restrictions, right? Depending upon what age you are, you can't be out, right? Spain, there were restrictions based upon only one person per household has to be dedicated to going out, and if you're out and about, you'll get a fine. I mean, so would you? I mean, when I look at Michigan Avenue, and it looks shitty. I mean, when I drive through North Lawndale and it looks shittier than I had already looked, right? And I look around this entire city, were there things that could have been prevented by was there some kind of proactiveness that could have kept it from getting to this point? Like when we do reach a new normal, when these elections come back around, you mean in 2 years you need a new governor, in 4 years you need a new mayor, 4 years you need new aldermen. Are there people going to come up and say, look, this totally should not have been this way at all if you would have did X?
Yeah, but armchair quarterbacks are everywhere, Toriano. Lots of motherfuckers who aren't in the game today can sit back and say what you can do. So that part I'm not worried about. What I'm more worried about is if somebody's going to shut down. So if I were the governor, and let's make me JB, because I don't got shit, right? JB has billions. If I were JB, I would shut down Illinois, and then I would take care of our residents and make sure they had food. And I would make sure, and I would close our borders and make sure that people couldn't come in and out. And I would take care of our people. Like, the problem with people don't have basic needs met right now. And so people are hungry. People don't have shelter. As soon as all these eviction things get lifted, I mean, Toriano, you can't be saying you're going to lock people down and you don't give them resources. So I guess I amend my statement, and maybe that'll help us move to one other topic before we're done today. If I were to shut shit down, I'd make sure there were resources. Right. You can't shut things down without adding
expecting it to go back to normal. Yeah.
People. I mean, right now
people are out of jobs and everything.
Yeah, they're out of jobs. They don't have. I mean, and let's just, Toriano, you've heard me say this: the pandemic makes us more of who we are. So people were already hurting. People were already barely making it. And so now I'm going to crack down on them because they're angry and because they are lashing out at the fact that we're not treating them like humans. Fuck that. No. If I'm going to crack down, then I'm going to match with my personal billions, because I'm the governor we have right now. I'm going to make sure that people are taken care of. He did that with his staff. You think the salaries that people in Illinois in his key positions they make, they're getting paid by Illinois? They're not. They're getting paid by his personal, because he wants the best talent and he wants to compensate them well. So that's what I would do. So are you happy now?
And I'm glad we kept talking about it, because no, I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate, of course. I mean, yes, you can't. You can't shut people down.
Enough, right?
Well, I mean, it's two things. One, you can't shut people down without giving them resources. But at the end of the day, you know, I'm just Boy Scout 101. Be prepared. You know, and a lot of people.
I'm MacGyver. You're Boy Scout. I'm MacGyver.
Well, MacGyver was always in some bullshit. He was tied up somewhere. Like I'm not. He was tied up and had to figure out how to get out of a fucked up situation. I don't want to be in no. And I mean, at the end of the day, the people I know, because we deal with dogs, right? And we deal with security, so we have to constantly think about crazy ass situations that might go down, that might go like that 100%. Like George Floyd, how could that be a mystery to anyone? I mean, when my son called me up, literally hours after it happened, I'm like, dude, she's about to be super fucked up, like for a while. Like I literally uncontrollably cried for our country. Like I didn't even know I had that kind of emotion, that I was that patriotic. I mean, like, but
people always are.
But I was like, damn, she's about to get really messed up. Like for real messed up. I mean, same thing with this whole Halloween thing. And I feel blessed because like you, I'm a politician and I didn't know the voter suppression thing was real. I mean, and you know, the thing about voter suppression, for those that don't know what voter suppression is, it's specific strategies that are implemented to keep people from going out to vote. For example, income tax checks conveniently come out right around February elections. I mean, people go out and then it's coincided with drugs flooding the street. So people just don't make it to the polls because they were doing other things. Or people are discouraged by bullies walking into poll stations, why they have poll watchers, people that, just think about that. The fact that you have to have a poll watcher, someone to make sure that there's no cheating happening at the polls, right? So we know we would be very naive to say that nothing's going to go on that weekend, period. I mean, I'm just thinking of it.
Which is why the fact that that's why telling people to vote as an option is the only way to stop injustice is bullshit. When we know for a fact that people are actively trying to get us not to vote, that's why that's not the answer. When people say, if you're mad, vote. I'm like, you got to do some more shit than vote. Voting by itself, they're actually actively trying to keep you from voting. Yeah, so I'm with you, Toriano, on that. But here's where the hope is. I know you don't like, you guys on this show don't like protesting. But guess what? Protesting is what got us the Civil Rights Amendment.
Oh,
protesting is what got women the right to have abortion.
Amen.
Nothing in this country has ever been given peacefully.
Nada. Amen. Okay? For sure. I am. Amen.
Anybody who's in this camp that people shouldn't be mad and shouldn't demand justice.
Amen. I mean, you know what's interesting? You said that an amazing movie that people should watch, it kind of accidentally popped up, was Emperor. Have you seen this?
Okay.
Have you seen it?
I haven't.
Emperor. There was a slave named Emperor who worked with John Brown against the Harper Ferry revolt. They were all slaughtered, but he's a slave. And the final straw was when the master beat his son for reading, and him and his son had been stealing books. It's a true story. You should Google it. Amazing movie. And the mom's is like, you gonna get him killed and you gonna get yourself killed. Stop bringing these books. And it's such a powerful scene. And he's like, he's gonna be free one day, right? And I want him to read.
So he needs these skills.
So the overseer caught him reading, snatched a book from him, and said, here, read this. He's tricking him because he's a little kid. He's like 5 years old. And the kid, he doesn't know. So he starts reading. And then next thing, boom, he's beat. That was the final straw. Went on for this guy. He probably killed a few a couple hundred white folks before he was just mutilated, destroyed. But then that later would be it was right in that sweet spot between Lincoln and the Union Army, and it was right in between. And even Frederick Douglass was like, y'all are crazy. Don't do this shit. It's it's not the way to go. You mean, like, it's going to work out. I mean, clearly it wasn't going to just work out by talking. It ended up being one of the bloodiest. I mean, if we added up every American that died in every war since the Civil War, it still does not come up to the amount of bloodshed that was shed over slavery, for the ending of slavery, which was really not even about the black folks. It was about, economic power, where you couldn't have two Americas. That's what it was really about, but Lincoln was in charge of close to 300,000 women that lost their life. So I agree with you 100% that it's not going to happen because of, oh, hey.
Negotiating. You can't negotiate. Stokely Carmichael said it best. When you go to talk to people and negotiate, you're counting that they have a conscience. When people don't have a conscience, you can't reason with people like that.
Ooh, that's heavy. Before we go, though, I gotta get Chanel's input, because Chanel is Miss Kumbaya. She's my little suburban girl. She's always Chanel.
I'm not even suburban. I'm not.
Are you? And Chanel's over there throwing holy water at the computer for both of us. She's like, poor Denise and scared poor Chanel into like, yeah, I told you she was gangster. You didn't know how gangster she was, Chanel. Now Chanel's over there thinking.
No, I know Denise is a go-getter, and I know she's very verbal and precise in everything that she does.
But you didn't know.
I'm just all peaceful.
You didn't know it was gonna be like this, though.
And we need that. We need every bit of everybody. I think we lack communication, though. Yeah, we lack communication, and I think a lot of times when we face these situations and these disagreements, we have not actually sat down with one another to see how we're feeling. Like, what is it that causes you to disagree with me? We miss out on that. So I think, when we say peace begins with that. Like, let's talk, you know what I'm saying? And I know yesterday, Joanna, you were saying about, texting, but sometimes you need a text message to kind of, start it off, to set the tone, to let you know how I'm feeling. Hear me out. So that, because a lot of times when we're talking over each other, no one's listening, so many things are being misinterpreted, and, we're not getting things across. So when I say peace, I mean, I know that we fought for everything, and that's the way, it's been. But I think it's time to kind of switch the tone a little bit so that everybody can be heard. Everybody can see where the root of the problem is coming from. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, it started from there. So that's where my peace comes from. Like, let me see where you're feeling. Because there's validity in what you feel. It's validity, it's right on how you feel. Everybody has different perceptions on life, different perceptions on how you've been raised, you grew up, your resources, all of that. And that all takes place. So sit down and talk. Let's talk. Well, and that's what I said earlier. Like, when you did contrast me to yesterday's guest, I honor every person's experience. Right? I don't invalidate other people's experience. You can't do that, because then you're just like them. Right? Right? So my thing is, you're right. We gotta hear everybody and make sure everybody gets heard, and then we also have to act. Right. And that's what I think we should close with. Yeah. We can talk about inequities. We can talk about the disparities. After I know how you're feeling, after I know how you're doing, how can we compromise and make this work? Period. So I want action. Like, what action we gonna take?
Exactly. Like, let's come up with a solution. Always complaining and da-da-da-da-da. Okay, we've done that. I've heard you. Now, let's put together a plan so that we can both be compromised. If we're going to agree to disagree, happily in a civil way come together peacefully, happy-go-lucky. And I know a lot of times it's not going to be like that, but those are the things that I hope for. You know what I'm saying? Those are the. I don't like violence. I don't like any of that. I don't think it accomplishes anything. However, you know, like let's come to a point where we can make everybody can be happy.
Well, I won't say that. I'm not worried about people being happy. I want things to be fair, and I want people to be taken care of.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you have,
and with that comes happiness, though.
Well, yes, I agree with you. But I agree.
Yeah.
And we got to take care of people's mental health. Because right now we just keep dealing with symptoms, and we're not taking care of root causes.
We're ignoring it, and they're just thinking that people are just like going crazy. And it's like, no, like, what's the root of why this person is acting the way that they are? Let's dig deeper into that. Right? What do they need? What do they need? Exactly.
And Denise,
that's ignored. So yeah.
And Denise, I just want to, so we're clear, I want to say that I mean, you are remarkable because you find the balance between all. You know, that was the yesterday's show. I wasn't comparing you to that to the speaker from yesterday. I was saying that she brought up the point that a lot of times where women can end up having to absorb masculine energy because they just aren't around men, period. Like, I know I have a few friends, unfortunately, quite a few friends that they just aren't around men. You mean, like, I'm probably their only friend, male friend. They're not around because they're too busy. They don't have time for a relationship with men. And I think that it's real easy to get caught up in that space as a CEO woman. I mean, I know.
Not me. I love some men.
Oh no, I mean, and I know that to be true because I mean, some of my friends, some of my clients were like, I'm like, wow, this is super interesting. But I mean, in closing, the fact that you're able to do so much, you know, I mean, run your companies, work with the county, have your children, still have relationships and all that. That's something that I would love for people to listen to this podcast and share and hear that motivation. And Denise, where can they reach out to you? Like, where's the best places?
Oh my gosh. Yes, you can find, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter. It's Denise W. Barreto in both those places. Check out Sarah Productions on Instagram, also at sarahproductions.com. And obviously, y'all can find me in the Wolfkeeper family. I've been peeking in there.
You be peeking in there because you do an IG show also.
On Sunday nights, that's right. IG Live on Sunday nights, me and my partner. So yes, you can find us there. And we just signed up for Podbean, thanks to you.
Yay.
So we'll have our Podbean show pretty soon.
And then what time on Sunday nights can they find you?
Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern. We be talking shit though. Like, we're not peaceful and kumbaya like y'all. We be talking shit on ours.
Oh, you all straight going in. You don't have a kumbaya balance beam like I do.
No, we're not, and we don't believe in love like y'all do. We believe in unconditional positive regard. And y'all
So they can listen to your show, and then we'll calm them down.
That's right. Y'all will love them. I'll be like, get the out of here.
Right.
I'll send Chanel over there. She's my kumbaya queen. She brings.
Y'all are the best. Thanks for having me.
No,
Thank you, Denise.
Denise, I totally appreciate for you coming on. We got so much information, and I'm bringing you back.
Yes, of course.
I'm bringing you back in February to recap. I know we got so much more to talk about.
We'll have season 2 of Fly Brother by then. So, yes.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
There you go. Well, I'm Toriano Sanzoni, Wolfkeeper, with my amazing co-host, Chanel Nell. And thank you, Denise, so much for sharing so much information today. and taking time out of your busy schedule. Appreciate you. I'm Torian Sanzoni's Wolfkeeper. Please share this broadcast. Thank you to the whole Wolfkeeper crew, the posse, Rejoice, Tyrone Scott, Love, and everyone else. CJ King doing it. My boy Ruben Rock hooking it up, and my whole family for supporting me. Love y'all. Peace.